When I think back of movies that I love the grand vista, the widescreen look of Anamorphic, and really it's a style unto itself.
There's something about that canvas of telling stories that I love the compositions, I love the way that close-ups are shot, and especially with anamorphic lenses.
I mean, when I see that aspect ratio, it just is right. It feels like the right aspect ratio. It's just how it should be.
It's fused into our collective memory that look is associated with important films, with big budget blockbusters. And when you use it in the right way, you can get arguably the most amazing images you can get. I love that.
We did a test earlier last year, which was mostly spherical lenses, and we kind of were going at it, trailblazing, figuring things out, and to our surprise, it was really successful. A lot of cinematographers from literally all over the world thanked us and still continue to use our test.
It was just amazing to see the reaction. It changed everything. And we knew as soon as we were finished with that test that the next one was going to be anamorphic.
We needed to continue doing this. We realized that the filmmaking community really needs this resource.
One of the things we were really excited about was trying to test as many lenses as possible, but also a wide variety in look and feel and age, as well as budget.
We've been testing lenses from built in 1950s through today, modern life, and the difference between them is huge.
This test has been amazing. It's such a massive range from some of the earliest anamorphic primes, like the Panavision Auto Panatars, all the way to brand new prototype Atlas Orion lenses, and everything in between.
We were able to get 13 brands, 13 different flavors of anamorphic lenses for this test. And 13 anamorphic lens sets is it's just a lot of lenses to get.
I think I've looked at more anamorphic lenses in 2 days as part of this test than I have in the last 20 years.
I don't think I've ever seen this many focal lengths and brands, makes, and models in one place at one time with the same scene, same lighting, same model, everything, all at once.
Honestly, I really think it's hard for me to talk even about the sets that I liked versus others, just because there were so many to take in. I think I'm still processing it.
Just diving a little bit into the history of anamorphic, in the 1950s, television was becoming ubiquitous in the United States, and theater owners and studios were running scared, and they had to come up with a number of gimmicks to get people back into the theater. And widescreen was one of the aspects that was brought about in the 1950s to make movies different than television and bring people into the theaters.
Since the advent of digital cinema cameras, anamorphic lenses have seen sort of a resurgence on the market. It's actually been a really exciting time because nowadays it's not uncommon to see anamorphic lenses used on music videos, commercials, and more often these days on feature films, looking for a slightly different look, slightly different draw than what you'd get with a standard spherical lens.
These days, it's definitely more of an aesthetic than it is a technical achievement. People want a specific style, a specific look, especially in regards to nostalgia. Everyone's trying to sort of get the older style back, and anamorphic lenses have become one of the most popular ways to achieve that style.
In the era of digital cinematography now, where we start getting relegated down to only a few sensors to choose from, where the sensor is now the equivalent of our film stock. So we can't bleach bypass, we can't cross process, we can't force process, we can't pull process, and we only have one stock as opposed to a dozen stocks to choose from. Optics now have become much more important and paid attention to than ever before.
At the end of the day, when you use lenses like that, you don't get the same kind of distortion characteristics that you would with a super wide angle. More separation between the background and the foreground. I think that's another thing what really anamorphic shines, is that you get that 3D look, that separation, the waterfall bokeh. You know, those are all reasons why people love anamorphic, and I think what makes anamorphic special and unique.
50, 60, 70-year-old glass has suddenly become in vogue again, and you've seen over the last decade a lot of lenses being dug out of bins and resurrected, and anamorphic falls into that.
I love anamorphic lenses because they are still sort of like this black art. A lot of people understand why they want the look, but they don't necessarily understand how they work. So it's still sort of this magic, especially in a day of everything's digital, everything's pixels, numbers, it's all hard facts. And then you've got this organic piece of glass that has like this magic effect on your image. I think that's really important in today's day of sort of drab, bland cinematography.
It's the childhood movies that I grew up with. It's E.T., it's The Goonies, it's Alien, it's Blade Runner, it's all these amazing big spectacle movies.
You know, the movies that I loved growing up, almost all of them were anamorphic films, so it's something that I reach for.
I know as a DP, my job is to be appropriate to the story and to the production. And so there were many times starting off when I was trying to find a reason to be 185. And I'm like, why am I fighting it? This is what it should be, and this feels right. Inside, I think whenever I read the scripts, my first vision is the wider aspect ratio.
Anamorphic lenses sort of force you to put what's important toward the center of the frame. I actually think that it ends up pushing you towards making more interesting looking images. And I think that that's a big reason why that anamorphic look is so iconic.
There's a reason why a lot of people haven't shot anamorphic for a very long time. And a lot of it has to do with the extra workload that goes into it. These lenses are not as forgiving as spherical is.
Anamorphic is in some ways more complicated than traditional lenses. It's not easy to shoot, and there's a lot of misinformation about anamorphic. People don't understand basically what goes into it.
When I first start off on a collaboration, I'm given all of this information from directors and producers of what they don't want and what they do want and what they've seen. And what you find and discover is that they've just had a lot of bad information.
If you go online, you search cow anamorphic and you read what somebody wrote about it, that's just one person's opinion from whatever experience they had. And they might say, that's my favorite lens, or that's the worst lens I've ever tested. And if you take that as that's truth, and then you don't do any testing of your own, you're making a mistake.
Here's the thing. Too many people out there read something online or believe what somebody else says, oh, this lens is great, this lens is crap. You don't know for sure until you actually do that test.
Testing is crucial. Testing is crucial for every project, every cinematographer, every time you jump out. And there are so many things that you can discover in tests. What you can't get from a manufacturer's brochure or from another cinematographer's opinion are the real characters of lenses.
We are hoping that we are showing you how serious we take this so that you can trust this as a resource to know, yes, this is what these lenses look like. This is what you're gonna get if you choose this lens. So I feel like we're in a little bit of a battle against misinformation. We wanna help people find the answers to their questions. What does this lens look like? What's it gonna give me? What's it like to work with it? Just really good information.
When we decided that we wanted to do the second lens test, it had to be the same background, it had to be the same settings, and we tried to match it as perfectly as possible. We basically wanted to create a scene that looks like something that could be out of a movie, but it's still telling you all the things you want to know about a lens.
We have 4 main tests going on in this overall test. What's interesting about anamorphic lenses is if you didn't know what lens you were looking at and you just looked at the distortion chart, you'd think, is this a trick lens? What's wrong with it? Is it broken? Nothing on the edges is in focus. And then you look at it in the real world test and it's completely different. And that's what's important about doing all of it. Just where a lens comes from, whether it be Germany or Russia or Japan or the United States, there seems to be almost a character that goes along with that.
Every lens had personality. Everyone was different, even in the same set, from the same manufacturer. Going from one focal length to another, they would change. Each one had its own sort of optical signature, and it was interesting to discover that.
The modern anamorphic ones, they are really easy to work with. They're almost flawless. So it's really quick when we are changing the lenses. When we come to the vintage anamorphics, they are old engineering. It takes a little bit much more time than the modern ones.
There is not one best lens. There's not one that's right for every job. You have to pick the right lens for your shoot. One of the things that's most important to us about this test is that it is a very fair apples to apples comparison. And we went to great lengths to make sure that the only variable in this testing is the lens. We are not picking any winners. It's all about just showing people what these lenses can do. There is not one standout lens. If anything, this is going to show people that not only is there so many choices that are going to give great results, but there's also so many great choices at different budgets. There are cheap ways to do things and there are expensive ways to do things. And both options are going to give you really, really good looking stuff.
When you tell someone what you're going to do and it's just in the name of education, you just want to educate and get information out there. It's amazing what people are willing to do and how much people are willing to contribute and help out. And I was humbled by just how much the film community came together for this.
The test coinciding with this kind of environment, community of people who own and are creating a network to rent and distribute and share resources with is really valuable.
Even though, it seems like, lens test, it really felt more like a shoot to me. Originally I started in production and I just loved the vibe of the shoot and the people that are here, and there was a lot of work going on. It was like every time I stepped out of my room to take a little break, it seemed like a factor, like maybe like ILM in 1975 trying to get the special effects done for the first Star Wars. Just everybody off in their corner trying to get something done that demanded a lot of focus and a lot of attention, and it was just really cool to be a part of that.
I feel like one of the things that was most telling about this test is how many professionals all came out and were in the room together, and the energy of this community, specifically just in cinematography and optics, was really energizing.
Everyone has that more ooh and ah moment when a certain flare comes up, and that's super exciting because you either hate it or you like it, and there's no really right or wrong answer there. It's more about, do you prefer it or not? And I think it's fun having those conversations with all of these guys who are super excited about Glass.
The procedure, the accuracy, the repeatability, the thoroughness I wouldn't change a thing. This whole test has been exactly how I would do it.
This weekend was an amazing experience. I have this amazing crew to work with, so many lenses. This will always stay as a great opportunity.
To see that many lens geeks, DPs, directors just geeking out about lenses, just getting excited, just oohing and eyeing from somebody just putting a lens on a camera, it was amazing. I think another reason we went so far this time is there's something very special about anamorphic lenses. And to get so many special lenses in one place, we wanted to make sure we did it right and gave the cinematography community as much information as possible.
A test like this provides public access to a wealth of lenses that are very rarely ever available to a single person at a single setting. So it provides a shortcut in seeing the personality and the characteristics of so many lenses in one place. And that's an extraordinary value that really isn't matched anywhere else.
So ShareGrid isn't just about helping people rent gear, which is a wonderful thing that you need as a filmmaker. It's about community. It's about bringing people together. It's about inspiring. And I can't think of a better event that epitomizes that, where you get a band of filmmakers to come together and network and educate and debate and inspire. That's really what this whole test and event was about.